Hello, welcome to episode 23 of Live with Jill and Frank. My name's Jill Petrie. I'm a psychic medium, and this is my co host, Frankie.
That's it. I'm Frank and co-host of Jill. Um, yeah, tonight we decided to adopt a new way of doing things, or to
Technique.
try something. We're gonna be playing a video and doing a commentary. Seems to be something that people do and that works. And we're always looking for topics, and we're like, okay, what could we talk about? And the other day I was watching a video and I went, wait a minute, how about we just watch videos and talk about them? So we're gonna try that tonight. And please let us know in the chat. Let us know everywhere. What you think of that. If you're enjoying yourself. We sometimes have a hard time seeing the chat, but we've attempted to open a bunch of windows and figure out if we can see you guys properly for this time around. And so, well, did we just want to jump right in? Did we want to talk a little bit first about?
I think we can jump right in as soon as we check the chat real quick, just to see if there is any interaction with the chat. We don't want to miss any of y'all comments. Yeah, we can jump right in.
Yeah, everything's good. All right, guys. So tonight we've decided to go. I selected a video. It's one that I watched a few days ago, whatever, and it's exposing the codependency mind trick. It's by Teal Swan. Uh, Not everybody loves Teal Swan. Some people react very, very much to her. Some people love her. Uh, but I personally, I think she's got some very valuable stuff that she brings to the table. Uh, so and that was one video that I watched and that I thought was very enlightening regarding codependency, which is
Hmm.
something that I struggled with in my life in the past. So without further ado, I guess we'll go on and play the video, and we'll stop it and comment as we go, just to try to see. Yeah. So here it goes.
To be honest with you, the word codependent was a terrible choice because codependency at the end of the day is a relational style that somebody adapts that has nothing to do with being dependent. I could probably write an entire book on codependency. Not probably, I definitely could. About what gives rise to it, about the different behaviors that come with it. But what is important for you to understand today is that it is a relational style that people adopt and then they carry it through into their adult life. But they adopt it
No,
and
my initial
make that.
reaction to this was that it was bullcrap. Um, but then she'll eventually redeem herself. Uh,
She always does.
but yeah, she kind of she starts a little like, well, it's not a dependency. Okay, arguably could be, could not be, but we'll see where she goes. But yeah, I reacted the first time I watched it, and still now.
That adaptation because they are in an unhealthy social environment. If you would like to learn more about this, you can watch my videos titled The Truth About Narcissism and Codependency, as well as Codependency Has Nothing to Do with Dependency.
However, you can only do that
What
in
is
an hour
important to
after rush.
understand for the sake of the information that I'm about to share with you in this video is that people who adopt this style of relating to others, which we call codependency, they do so because they're in an environment where the way that they feel in that environment is that nobody is actually there for their best interests, looking out for their well-being, or an ally to their welfare. Because of this, they decide the best way to survive is to get their own needs met by sacrificing parts of themselves so as to conform to other people's interests. And they create an attuned emotional contract with them whereby their own needs are manipulatively met in exchange for doing so.
That's important. It's everybody always looks at the codependency like if it was a the one person is getting victimized, if you will.
Hmm.
Where no, it's actually it's a like she said, it's a transaction, right? It's you're getting your needs met through a roundabout way of getting their needs met, because when
Hmm.
their needs are met, your needs are met. It's kind of a but yeah, it's
A
that
merry-go-round or a roller coaster.
Well, that's it. It's just, but it's important to acknowledge that you're not just doing it to serve their needs. You're
Right. You
serving
have to
their
serve
needs
your
in
own
order
too.
to serve yours. Like not a lot of people bring it up that point up. I find, but she does. So
Because I think a lot of people don't take it that way, and that it sounds like a it sounds bad in a way, but it's not a bad thing.
no, that's it. Like it's like everything else in life, right? Like I mean, anything that when it comes to the mental, anything which could be out of place or whatever, they're all things that we have. Like say ADHD, right? People that lack attention.
Hmm.
Problem is everybody will go, well, I sometimes lack attention, right? Because yes, everybody at one time or another lacks attention. Now it becomes ADHD when that lack of attention is repeated, is found, like almost all the time. Now that becomes a different thing, right? So it's a little bit the same thing, right? Like there's always going to be a certain amount of dependence, but she'll get a lot deeper into it, and like you'll see, it's interesting the way she brings it, and she brings it up. Like you'll see, there's 25 minutes of this, so I'll try to stop it less. Oh, I pressed the wrong play.
It's also important to know that you will hear pretty much everywhere that codependents place a lower priority on their own needs while obsessively focusing on the needs of others, and this is not true. It only looks like this on the outside. What's really happening is that this preoccupation with the needs of others is simply their way of getting their own needs met. In any relationship, confluence is that feeling of we. It is that sensation of togetherness, unison, agreement, alignment, alliance. Basically, the opposite of conflict, the opposite of being against each other.
That's going to be center to everything she's going to talk about.
Hmm.
That confluence concept. It's that feeling you get in a couple of like togetherness, right? Like it's more than just an idea; it's a feeling of togetherness. She's calling that confluence, and it's that she's going to come back to that a lot.
Each other. Probably the best way to visualize confluence is to think about two streams that are coming to join as one, but one that becomes more. Confluence is about harmony, and confluence is something that everyone wants in relationships. I mean, ultimately, that's what feels good to us. So we're all wanting confluence, but not at any cost. If we have adopted this relational style of codependency, what sets us apart from other people is that we are after confluence no matter the cost. We go to lengths to establish
See, that's
confluence
super
that are
important.
detrimental to ourselves and to anyone we're in a relationship with. For example, we usually grew up in households where difference meant conflict. Therefore, for the sake of creating confluence, we abandoned our authenticity and made ourselves the same as others, or made ourselves into whatever they wanted us to be. Or, for example, for the sake of confluence, we also learned to enable dysfunctional behavior in others. Very big deal for codependency. And here's the thing. What sets codependency apart also is that with the style of codependency, you are perfectly willing to fake confluence. If we have adopted this relational style of codependency, the reason ultimately that we did this is that we learned in our environment growing up, and potentially our current society, we learned that anything but confluence was incredibly dangerous. This means this is our strategy of avoidance.
Yeah, that's why people will avoid conflicts. People will avoid like all kinds of stuff, right? Because when you got conflict with somebody, you don't have confluence, and so we tend to overvalue confluence, if you will. Like we tend to want to
Hmm.
seek it everywhere, and then because life does not provide it everywhere, we we're trying to manipulate life. We're trying to see through getting others to meet their
See our
needs.
views. Yeah.
We kind of gain that confluence, but it's like it's constantly grasping, right? Like it's not a yeah, it's constantly grasping is what it is.
We're wanting to avoid pain and we're wanting to get our needs met, and we have decided the only way to make that happen is to create confluence. Even if we have to fake it, even if we have to do horribly abusive things and distort ourselves in order to create it, it's basically whatever I have to do to myself to create confluence, and whatever I have to do that damages others to create confluence, that's what I'm doing.
She's got a beautiful sense
It's
of
a literal
exaggeration.
self-survival mechanism. What does this mean? This means that if you have this codependency style in relationships, you don't just like confluence. Confluence is that buoy that you hold to as if you are stranded in the middle of the ocean in a squall. It is so important to understand this relationship, often a subconscious one, that people who fit into this codependent spectrum have with confluence, because it is this relationship they have with confluence
That's true.
that
Very
opens
true.
up the door for an incredible mind trick. It opens up the door for somebody to be in a state of total inauthenticity, but being completely convinced that it's authentic. Here's what I mean. Or I should say, here's the trick. If you have adopted the relational style of codependency, you care so much, often on a subconscious level, about confluence, that it registers in your system as your top value, and therefore your top priority. This means that letting go of any other personal truth you might have so as to establish confluence with someone will actually feel like relief. It will feel good,
Hmm.
and it will feel right, and it will feel authentic, because in doing so you are in alignment with your top subconscious value.
It's kind of the same reason, right? Why like codependent people when they meet somebody event like within a matter of like it can be even weeks, like they'll drop everybody they know, they'll drop everything they know because they're like getting that sense of confluence, right? They're
Hmm.
getting that closeness with one person, they abandon everything and go, okay, here it is. But it's not really the person that they're interested in, it's just that feeling. And so I don't even think she mentions it, but yeah, that easily lets in people like the narcissists because we're not on our guards, right? Like, and they
But I
always
think the
they're always lovey dovey at first, so we
the
feel that
narcissist
confluence.
has been overblown these days. Like everybody, I mean, it's become a very popular word.
Eh,
So everybody calls everybody narcissist, whether they are or they aren't.
well, no, but it's there's a difference between narcissism and a narcissist, right? Like everybody has narcissism. Everybody has
Hmm.
narcissistic tendencies. Everybody, and especially in this day and age, yes, we're having a massive problem with it.
Hmm.
Now, that does not mean everybody is a narcissist as
Right.
it comes to the you know to the diagnosis. But at the same time, the word has been so used like in that way that it kind of works anyways. It's become the new definition, if you will, or so we refer to the narcissist. But see, what's important, I tend to use toxic people because they tend to share enough similarities that, but the problem is you now go into their game, right? Because when they first meet you, they're gonna love bomb you. They're gonna like totally give you everything. Like you're gonna
Hmm.
say, I like skiing." They're gonna go, "Oh, I love skiing." You're gonna say they mirror you. They do all these tricks, right? And so
Hmm.
you're after confluence, and now you're going, "I love skiing." Yeah, me too. Oh, cool. And you're getting
But
that injection, right? Like,
I think the biggest problem in relationships is that when somebody gets to that point, everybody wants to point fingers instead of saying, "Hey, we both," it takes two to make it work. They all want to point fingers and say he's a narcissist, he's a narcissist. Um, it's
well,
just
no, that's. I mean, if
over overly worded these days.
yeah, there's people every concept like that. There's people that abuse it, but that doesn't take us away from what it actually means, right?
Hmm.
Like, so based on what it actually means, yeah, we're still way more as a codependent. You're way more likely to fall for the narcissist because that's what they do. That's
But
the
people
way they function. They give you that confluence like
and the people
immediately.
that don't want to feel pain from that because sometimes we have to go through pain to learn something.
No, but I mean, at first you don't go through pain with the narcissist.
No,
That's the whole
not in that
trap.
situation, but eventually you do, and you're already
Yes.
trapped.
Well, yeah,
So,
because you didn't go for anything healthy. You
mhm,
went for confluence.
right.
You went for a fake. You went for something like she'll go on with it, but that's the problem. Is you're not after a healthy relationship. You're
Hmm.
codependent because everybody else does not let in. See, it's not. It's funny because people, especially empaths, like they go, "Oh, I draw the narcissist." No, but you're the only person that lets him in. Everybody else goes, "Get the hell out of my house. Get the hell out of my life." Like, who the hell are you? What do you think you're doing, right? And all of a sudden, we go,
Or
"Oh,
everybody
cool.
else
Here
is
he
fooled.
is."
Or everybody else is fooled.
No, they're not fooled. That's the thing. They just want nothing to do with that person. But
Not
we do.
necess- or they could be just like them and be fooled.
Well, no. When I meet a narcissist now, I go, "Heh, heh, bye." I kick them out of my life immediately. If I meet somebody with that kind of personality, they're out of my life within, I don't know, I probably never let them in my life. Or if I did and I found out right away, I'm going to go, okay, get out. Like there's no negotiating with that. They're not a person that will in any way, shape, or form improve my life.
Definitely not.
They'll only be able to make it worse. Now, the problem is most empaths, they'll let them in. Why? Because when you
Hmm.
first see them, they're all lovey-dovey. They try to pretend. They try to be your best friend. They try to be your,
And it's a little
but you
thicker.
but here's the deal, right? This is something I talk about in one of my videos, and that's a problem I with empaths that I think most people don't realize. See, we talk about the narcissist and we go, how does he get his prey? Let's call it. Like, they're not preys either. I mean, there's some really good videos about how the narcissists work and why and whatnot. And they're trapped in their own world and their own reality. But the reason, uh, see, at first they come in and they're all lovey dovey, right? They're bombing you with like all kinds of beautifulness and whatever. Now, most people, when they see somebody like that, they start worrying. They go, okay, wait a minute. Like something's going on, something's fishy. Nobody agrees with me on everything, right? We empaths, we tend to let them in. But here's the thing that I find ironical in a way with empaths. When we meet people, we're very loving with them. We're willing to give our shirts. We're willing to do everything. We try to connect on every level because most of us are also codependent, which brings us to that feeling of confluence. We're looking for that. Now, whether we're doing it for real, but the narcissist is doing it for fake. Either way, the person that's in between, if you will, or the neurotypical, let's call them, um, those people they're going like, oh, you might be a narcissist because you're all lovey dovey with me, but we're an empath. We would never hurt a fly, but we get discarded as a toxic person because we act like one at first, and not a whole lot of people see that. Like people are like, they think it's one way that the narcissist acts nice, and you go, no, but wait up. Like empaths, we act nice, so people go, oh, you must be a narcissist. You must be, a toxic individual. And so it kind of, it backfires a little bit on us. But anyway, back to the video, I guess.
All right.
Let's see what Teal has to say about it. And there we go.
So that you can understand this mind trick better, I've got an example for you. Tom is married to Sandy. Tom has adopted a relational style of codependency. The reality, meaning the authentic truth about Tom, is that he is a little bit of a thrill seeker. He feels more alive when he's taking risks. And this
Pretty good
man
example.
loves capital L, loves adventure. Here's the thing. Sandy is not this way at all. She loves predictability, loves routine. She's a serious homebody. She loves staying at home with her cats and gardening. Sandy gets upset anytime that Tom takes a risk or suggests that they change their routine or strikes out on some kind of an adventure. This upsets her. Now, Sandy is not a master of relationships by any means, but interestingly enough, she's not actually narcissistic. She has not adopted the narcissistic style of relating to other people. Still, this doesn't stop Tom from slipping into these codependent behaviors relative to Sandy. Tom does not know how to deal with incompatibility in a relationship. And whenever Sandy gets upset, the feeling of not being aligned with her is viscerally terrorizing.
That's important.
His desperate attachment to Confluence is triggered, and so Tom goes to work denying the truth that he loves adventure and trying to get rid of his tendency towards risk taking. Tom does this in many ways. Let's look at some of them. He denies, suppresses, and disowns the part of him that likes risk taking, the part of him that wants adventure. He makes an absolute enemy of it internally. After all, he has to deny, suppress, and disown anything that is a threat to his confluence with Sandy. He decides that being a risk taker is not a truth about himself. It's an unhealthy addiction. And to validate this new idea of his, which just so happens to bring him into confluence with Sandy, he reads all kinds of books on the dangers of risk taking and on how it's an addiction.
Like,
He
have
also
you ever seen somebody do that? It's freaky. Like, they go from being one person to another when they meet their girlfriend or something, and you're like, dude, no, like, that's not
That's not
you.
who you were.
Yeah, yeah. You're like, bro, like, what? No.
I
And
actually, I think it's interesting. Let's use kids as examples. When
okay,
you have a kid with somebody, your kids
yeah.
are still young, and you know who your kid is, and you know what your kid would say or do or
Hmm.
whatever the instance is, and then someone else comes into their life and your kid does something totally opposite, and you're like, I know that's not my kid talking. Like, you know that
I,
somebody else put your kid up to that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just know my kids. I
you
don't
know
think you
what
have to
though?
be
I think we
psychic to
don't.
know
I
that.
think none of
I
us
think that
do.
everybody, yeah, but everybody deep down knows their kids
Do
and
your
knows,
parents know you?
yeah, I think so.
Do your parents know you?
I think so.
I don't know. Like, you know what I mean? They know, yeah, they know a part of Jill, but they
Okay,
don't.
so let's say to a certain extent then. But like, I don't know. Like, I've had two instances happen where my kids have told me something that I knew that it didn't come from them, and they
Yeah,
later
yeah.
admitted to it.
Okay. Yeah, but they
So,
for that moment though they had adopted it for some reason.
right, but I knew that wasn't them talking. Like, I knew what my kid would say in that instance.
Okay. Now, how does that, like, did that break confluence? Is that what you mean? Like, in that sense that it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I see what you mean though. That, like, that. I mean, I've just experienced like some breakage of confluence in that respect, and it was a new thing for
I
me
mean, I
because
kind of
my
feel
kids are
bad
young.
for the
So
outside person, like not my kid, because the outside person actually like thought that I would believe this if my kid said this to me. And I was like, yeah, right.
okay, but how does that tie into the codependency though?
I don't know. You help me out.
All
That's what we were talking about.
right.
That's what I brought up. That's my contribution.
It's cool though. It was about the confluence though with the kids, but that's good. That's still a good thing because there is that, and there's a moment where it kind of you have to learn that it'll come and go too, and you have to get comfortable with that, right? Because the same codependent will actually, once they have children, they'll become codependent with their children as well. And that's a huge thing, right? People don't realize that codependency is not just couples. You can become codependent with friends. You can become codependent with like everybody, right? Because you're trying to get that same confluence with everybody in your life. Because it's like your fuel. It's like your I don't know, you know. Let's see what Teal says. She'll probably have better words than me.
also watches all kinds of documentary films about bad things that happen to people who take risks. He also attends Buddhist seminars about being in the present moment and about the beauty of the mundane. He decides that even exploring his own neighborhood can be an adventure if he decides to make it one. He forces himself to stick to the routine and engage in the many homebody activities that Sandy's engaged in, such as reading and cooking and gardening and
His
watching
friends all
TV
start
and taking neighborhood
dropping
walks.
him one by one.
And here's the thing, at first doing this feels so good and it feels so right.
And it makes sense.
Why? Because at first when he starts doing this, he gets that confluence back, and because that's his top priority and his top need, his entire nervous system downregulates. Because it feels so good and so right, he is going to feel as if it is authentic, at least in the beginning. And here's the thing. This is the real mind trick. It is authentic. It's authentic because his top priority is confluence, and he's just acted in alignment with it, to the detriment of every other part of him. So hold the phone. This is what it looks like. What he has just done is he has had to disown and deny all kinds of other elements of authenticity for his one authentic truth, which is that his top priority is confluence.
Pretty much.
Tom is not satisfied with his life because he is denying the truth about himself to be in alignment with the truth that he wants confluence in his marriage. Again and again, these feelings of dissatisfaction will creep to the surface, and when it does, he becomes compelled to break the routine or go for an adventure or act out in some way. But when it happens, again, it threatens his sense of confluence, so he quickly suppresses them again. And when he does, again he feels relief. Again, he feels like he's back on track and doing what's right and true for himself, simply because he's attained confluence. Even today,
It's like
Tom will look at you straight in the face, and he will say, you know, we're just two homebodies. At the end of the day, there's just so much beauty in what happens in simple everyday life, and honestly, I believe that people nowadays are just so swept up in the constant seeking of intensity that they've forgotten the beauty of simplicity. The mind trick is that your attachment to confluence acts like a smokescreen for your personal truths, in that you do authentically want confluence. So anything you might do to attain it, including being dishonest and inauthentic, may feel like you're being honest and authentic to you. If you are someone who struggles with this mind trick, here are some suggestions. Number 1. Recognize when a personal truth would stand to grant you confluence with someone, and therefore you could be at risk of being in this pattern. And if a truth would stand to grant you confluence, that truth needs to be treated with suspicion. Most people who are in this pattern, whenever they have a truth crop up that would grant them confluence with somebody, they don't question it. They don't treat it with suspicion. What they do is automatically hook, line, and sinker it. It's an American expression meaning, they swallow it immediately, and it's just like, yes, because it feels so good. You need to question whether or not that truth is actually your truth, or whether it is simply something you are doing to get confluence. On top of this, you seriously need to question your relationship to compromise in relationships. You can't be in this pattern of codependency in relationships and not believe at some level in compromise in relationships. So have you examined your relationship with compromise? Essentially, you're perfectly willing to give things up or change things about yourself, potentially out of alignment with your authenticity, so as to achieve confluence in your relationships.
It's super freaky. I've been there.
For this reason, you would benefit by watching 2 of my videos. The first titled, Why You Should Never Make Compromises in a Relationship, and the second titled, Do You Base Your Relationships on Compromise or Compatibility? 2, you need to familiarize yourself and memorize the difference between the feeling of these 2 very different states. On the one hand, the state of something being very real or very true, and on the other hand, the sensation that occurs in your body when your nervous system is downregulated because you have gotten out of danger or you have attained some desperate need of yours, i.e. confluence.
That's super important, I think. What she just said is like, dead on. We tend to live in a fight or flight state these days, and we never quite come out of it, right? And so if all of a sudden, yes, your nervous system downregulates, immediately you get that feeling of like, oh, okay, wow, finally I can relax. Like I'm okay. I'm there, right? I've arrived, and so that's an important like. It's not something I've thought about very often, and it's something that I'm hearing, and I heard last time in the video as well, and it is something good to keep an eye on. To just go, okay, wait a minute, am I just down regulating because something just released, uh, another thing, or is it, am I actually getting my needs met? So it's like I like that she brings that up. It's a very good point, I find.
Exercise that you can do to familiarize yourself with the difference in these sensations. So you can recognize the difference between them. Is that first you can close your eyes and you can imagine yourself in a conflict. Imagine you're in trouble. Now then, in this visualization, I want you to imagine yourself getting out of trouble, i.e. creating confluence with somebody, so that they're suddenly, instead of being upset with you, they're happy with you and they're approving of you and they're feeling good and you're feeling that confluence feeling of we and harmony. Feel what that feels like in your body. Feel the downregulation of your nervous system and the intense relief. Now we're going to switch to a different visualization. The next visualization that you're going to do, that you're going to switch this to, is that you're going to imagine a truth that you can't have be untrue. You can't make it untrue no matter how hard you try. This could be something you're completely convinced of. Something that has your complete conviction. It could be anything. Or it could be something that you can't deny, like I was born in the city that I was born in. I want you to feel how that truth creates this sensation of solidness near your core. It's a solid stability in the center of your being. Two very different feeling flavors. One is truth. That's what happens when something is true. The other is what happens when you have escaped danger. So important to really familiarize yourself and let yourself fully feel the difference in those two sensations, because you're mistaking them for the same thing. Notice how both of them have a quality of rightness, but it's a completely different feeling flavor. Free, realize that if you slip into this mind trick,
Did anybody? I'd be curious. Does anybody in the chat, like, is anybody watching? Did anybody ever do this? Like, share with us, because did you do the exercise as she was saying it? Right? Like, did you, Jill? Like, did you follow what she was saying?
No, I didn't the first time.
All right. But yeah, you feel the difference between the two, right? Like
Hmm.
it's yeah. I had never taken the time to. Hey, Nick. So, Nick, I was asking, did you hear that little exercise that Teal was doing just now, and did you try it, and did you feel a difference? I'm curious. I tried it. I felt something different between the two, but I don't know if anybody else did that, or did you just show up right after?
I believe there's another exercise coming next, right?
I'm not sure, but we'll see what is coming next. She'll let us know.
you are exercising the coping mechanism of denial. For this reason, you would benefit by learning about denial. To do this, you can watch my video titled How to Call Bullshit on
No
Denial.
such thing as denial.
On top of this, the reality is you're lying to yourself. It's not just that you're lying to other people. And when I use that word, I don't mean that you're intentionally lying to people. You're just willing to do pretty much anything for the sake of confluence, even if that happens to be lying, right? It's not like a malicious thing you're doing. But you're lying to other people, and you're lying to yourself, which is the most important element of this.
If anybody
You're
in
not
the
being
chat has
honest with
been there,
yourself.
like, share with us. 'Cause
After
I
all,
know I've been there.
it's hard to establish confluence when you know you're lying to yourself, right? Obviously, that creates this, let's call it a discrepancy internally that most people can't live with. So it's easier just to deny internally. It's easier just to be dishonest with yourself. You are most likely in the pattern of fooling yourself. To do this, you're in the pattern of suppressing, denying, disowning, and reframing your own emotions. This means you tell yourself stories about them so as to obscure the truth they contain. Each emotion is a carrier of a personal truth. That means it contains completely valid information about what is genuinely authentic for you. But if you're in this pattern of codependency, you're not going to look at it, and you're not going to take the time to really feel it and mine that emotion for what that truth is that is inherent within that emotion. Instead, when it comes up, you're not going to do anything with it other than, I'm going to tell myself a confluence affirming story about it. I'll give you a really quick example. So let's say that you've got a woman who's in this pattern and her husband gets sick. And the truth is she doesn't want to be a caretaker. So she starts to feel all this negative emotion coming up. And the real truth in that negative emotion is, I hate taking care of my husband. I don't want to put my energy forth towards bringing him soup and making sure that everything around the house is done that he usually does. And that's the real reason she's feeling bad. But if she's in this pattern of wanting confluence above all else, when that comes up, she's going to tell a confluence affirming story about it rather than actually look at it. Something like, I just hate when he feels bad. It just hurts my heart to see him laying in bed hurting like this. Okay, so again, you're in the pattern of suppressing, denying, disowning, and reframing your own emotions, telling yourself stories about them to obscure the truth they contain. It's critical to notice your emotion and listen to the personal truth carried by these emotions. When something feels off, quote unquote, in your life, especially in your relationship, but you don't know what, chances are high that you're not being honest with yourself, because your truth threatens your sense of confluence with someone.
That's the problem, is it's a catch-22, right? Because you're telling yourself that story that brings confluence, then you get confluence, and then it reaffirms the so you just kind of, you're running after your own tail, constantly rebuilding that same, but you're running after something that doesn't exist. Like, you're trying to fill that hole, and it never fills that way, because you're trying to fill it with others, not with yourself.
In your life. If you find yourself in a pattern of self-sabotage or of breaking your word, it means you're not being honest with yourself. If you complain but don't take action, it means you're not being honest with yourself. And here's the thing, to be honest with yourself and other people, you're going to have to risk the loss of confluence, which is why it's so important to be in a conscious relationship with confluence. 4. If you are in this pattern of, let's call it confluence attachment, these things in your relationship, these conflicts will keep coming up over and over and over and over again. Essentially, the truth has a way of rearing its head. I'm going to hit you with something. It is not hard to live in alignment with what is genuinely true for you. You don't have to work at it. In fact, the work and the discipline comes in when you have to work against something that is true for you.
That's true.
Essentially, it's going to feel like you're going to have to be very disciplined to do things despite a part of you that you disapprove of. If you have to work really, really hard and be super disciplined to do something despite parts of yourself, that's an indication that you're denying, suppressing, and disowning a personal truth. For example, imagine...
Is everybody hearing that part? That's important. Like, it's so much easier to just be who you are and just be in your face about it than it is to actually, we spend a lifetime trying to be something we're not because we were told at one point or another that it was the wrong thing, we were the wrong person, we were angry too much, and so we suppress everything and we just try to pretend, and that is so much work. That is like so much more work than to just be like, hey, guess what? This is who I am. I'm not perfect. I have all kinds of stupid defects. But hey, take it or leave it, right? And people will take it. And oddly enough, people will like it even more, right? Like they will actually... People like people that say no a lot more than they like people that say yes. They use people that say yes a lot, but they don't actually respect them. Like, I used to be a yes man, and yeah. So, the best bet in life, the easiest path is actually to find who you are and to be who you are. So that's an important lesson in there.
Imagine that a man is looking for a relationship where he doesn't have responsibility and instead is taken care of. But he got into that relationship with a woman who has no interest in doing this. He will have to actively work against this truth, and he will notice that because it is second nature to live according to your truth, he will slip into behaviors where he doesn't take responsibility, or where others are forced to take care of him. Most likely, these are slips that lead to repeated conflict. So, like I said, another thing you want to watch for is that the truth keeps rearing its head. It'd be like a, ugh, why can't I stop doing that? Or a, ugh, why can't I stop thinking that? Or a, ugh, why can't I stop feeling that way? It just keeps happening. 5, commit to the mastery of relationship. The thing is, if you fall into this codependency spectrum of style of relationships, you're terrified of people. You're afraid of relationships. You associate them with pain. You don't know how to have yourself and have other people too at the same time. All you have ever known in relationships is zero-sum games or manipulation.
Well, yeah, you're trying to
You
to
don't
never
know how
disagree.
to have a conflict and then create actual resolve. I'm talking genuine resolve where both people still get to maintain their truths. You're walking around in an ocean of coping with your relationships. Also,
Pretty much.
you tend to placate people before there's even ever a conflict. What does all this mean? It means that in relationships, you've got to unlearn a whole lot and then learn a whole lot.
In
It's
life.
important to know that if somebody is codependent enough, they don't actually have to be in a relationship with somebody who has adopted the narcissistic style of relationship in order to exhibit these behaviors. In fact, a not so funny joke is all that it takes to make you be perceived as a narcissist in a relationship with a good enough codependent is if you have an opinion or a preference. All that being in a relationship with somebody who has adopted a narcissistic style of relationship does for somebody who has that style of codependency is it reinforces all the patterns, both, in fact, on both sides. And when patterns are reinforced like that, it just makes them all the harder to break out of. After all, there is an awful lot more occasion and reason to create confluence in a relationship with somebody who's perfectly willing to destroy you for their own sake.
Well, here's the deal, right? We have an addiction to confluence, right? And so what the narcissistic behavior will do is actually take away that confluence and then bring it back, and then take it away and then bring it back. And that in itself is a way to create addiction. This is how any drug addiction is created. This is how any addiction is created, is by having something super good and then taking it away, and then having it again and then taking it away. And the more because of the taking away, it becomes something that you hunt for, something that you want to get, right? And so that creates addiction. And this is what that very nasty narcissist and codependent, that's what that circle creates, right? Is that all of a sudden, because the narcissist is doing take away, bring back, take away, bring back, and the codependent is getting their confluence, every time, and they're going like, I want more, I want more. Then they keep staying there, and it becomes like hell, right? Now, I say narcissists. There's other toxic personalities that will have similar behaviors in terms of doing that as well. So,
Yeah, definitely. There's quite a few.
yeah.
When something is real, it is very stable and it is very solid, even if it doesn't necessarily feel good. With this constant searching for confluence, and when you have found the relief of confluence, there's no stability to it. There's no solidness to it. There's just relief. You are looking for something to feel good, even if there is no stability or solidness to it. Underneath what you are saying and doing, it will feel like me, like me, like me. You will be looking for one thing, and that is for your nervous system to relax, making it a strategy.
Mm-hmm.
This strategy of creating the false experience of confluence in a relationship in order to try to establish and maintain connection does not actually work. It gets you in the moment relief, yes, but it does not allow you to build a relationship based on what is true. So there is no actual relationship. If this is your pattern, you will be prone to duping people. Why? Because the first thing you're going to seek before you've even really met somebody, or when you first meet them, is confluence. So you're going to do whatever it takes to create that confluence, even if it's out of alignment with what is real and what is true. And therefore, you run the very real risk of duping them into thinking that you're somebody that you're not.
That's something I touch on in my video about boundaries on my channel because people do that. Like it is like you're duping them, right? Like let's say you never say no, right? And you start in a relationship and you're always saying yes, 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 yes to everything, and you're very accommodating and whatnot. But unfortunately, usually when you're accommodating like that because you're trampling all over your boundaries, at some point you still get this need of trying to protect yourself, right? Because after X amount of times that the boundaries have been crossed, well, now you're getting upset. You're getting like, and then you kind of you change all of a sudden, right? Like, because you start saying no to everything and you start being like really angry about things, or you start being, and then the other person will go, oh my God, you changed. And you're thinking, no, I didn't change. I'm the same person. I have the same, I'm just, now I'm letting you know though. And it's like, well, yeah, now you're letting me know. You're a different person. Now I'm finding out your boundaries, but we're 6 years into it, right? And so we always look at, oh, they trampled my boundaries. And it's like, wait a minute, were you clear about your boundaries? If you weren't clear about your boundaries, then no, they didn't trample your boundaries because you never said you had them, right? It's like, oh, you passed the line. I didn't know there was a line. Like, and so that's an important one when you're dealing with people as well, as a general rule. Like, be clear about those things right from the start and be who you are. Always be who you are, regardless how crazy and weird you might have been told it was when you were a kid, regardless how much you might have taken a lot of those thoughts for yourself and you're now thinking, well, I'm kind of weird. I mean, I sometimes think I'm completely crazy, but that's
I
okay.
even think he's crazy sometimes.
Exactly, right? But,
And
you
he
know.
thinks I'm crazy sometimes. Sometimes I am crazy.
But the main thing is, like, I am who I am, right? And that's regardless, even if, like, everybody in the chat was like, oh, dude, you're completely, like, you're off the walls, whatever. Well, it's me. Like, I'm not off the walls because I'm trying to be. I'm off the walls because it's me then. And so, whatever, off the walls is good. Crazy is good. Like, if crazy is what I am, then being fully crazy is what I have to do, because
Oh,
what
that
you are in your
reminds me.
core.
I love that new song. It goes like, "It's me. Hi, I'm the problem. It's me." You heard it?
Yeah, I do like it and I don't like it. Like, I mean, some of the deeper lyrics, it kind of gets off a little bit, but yeah,
I like
it's
it. I love it.
it's also catchy. It's also very catchy. Um, but yeah, like, it's, well, the thing is, yes, because we are the problem. Like, we're always the problem. The world is never the problem. Like, I mean, yes, the world, like, life is going to bring you a whole bunch of challenges and a whole bunch of crazy stuff, but is what's none of it is what's important. That's the weird part, right? Is those challenges, they're just coming because that's what life does. It throws challenges at you. So you can't let them change who you are, right? Like, you always have to just be you and keep moving forward and do as much good as you can in the world if you can, right? Without stepping all over yourself again, because people do that. People go, oh, I want to do good in the world. And instead of being fully who they are and also doing good when they can, they try to do good everywhere and let everybody trample them. And it's like, no, that's not doing good. That's, and the people trampling you, they don't get it. They don't get good out of that. Out of it, they're probably toxic people that trample people all the time. So, anyways, back to Teal, I guess.
Or thinking that you have truths that you don't have, like things that you don't necessarily like. In the beginning, you're going to run the risk that they are going to think that you are the perfect partner, only
But
to
I am.
find out that there's somebody else hiding underneath the surface.
Oops.
How do you have a relationship with a person that changes who they are in order to be whatever they sense that you want them to be? How can you
Exactly.
feel solid with that? If you can't pin someone down to anything, you're building a relationship with a shapeshifter. Anything you think is compatible one minute won't be the next. As a result, number one, you will not find actual compatibility in a relationship. Number two, you cannot build actual security in that relationship. It's an absolute recipe for building a life that is completely counter to what you want, counter to who you are. You cannot suppress, deny, and disown personal truths, even in favor of that personal truth that confluence is your top priority, because those truths will come out in all kinds of sneaky and subconscious ways. Essentially, it's a recipe for your relationships to become unsafe and to become painful and to most likely end. And on top of all this, it's an exercise in self hate. Have a good week. If you
What a way to finish, eh? It's an exercise in self hate. Okay, sure. A little extreme, but she's right though. At the same time, it is. It's very unhealthy. Like it's not good behavior.
No, it's
So, what did
definitely
you think
not.
about it?
I like it. I agree.
Hmm. Anybody else agree,
It's
disagree?
it's hard to. I know when people are in certain situations in relationships, it's hard to see it until you get out of it. Like, you look at you think of the worst,
Well,
and
that's
I
why I
guess
was
it's
mentioning.
it's the idea of the change that's coming. Like, what if I change my mind?
It's also, yeah, but it's also because it's an addiction that you're going through, right? Because
Hmm.
what it does is you're getting that confluence which you're addicted to, and you get it and then you don't, and then you get it
And then
and then you
the
don't.
main thing about it is that you don't love yourself enough.
Yes, it's in a large way that's what it comes down to. Now that begs the question: how does one reach that point where they love themselves enough? Like, how does one get to that point, right?
Spending time alone.
Well, yes, actually, you know
Definitely need
what?
to spend time alone, self love.
That is
Even if it's just
huge.
go and sit in the sun. If you can't say, well, oh, I can't do that self love pedicure manicure thing. I can't afford that. You don't have to have that. All you have to do is go sit in the sun and just feel the energy and the sunshine on your face. Um, Walking in the grass. All these things are very, very important.
Well, I don't know anybody else, but I know in my case, like being codependent before, like a fairly long time ago at this point, but there was a point where if you had said to me, Frank, go see a movie alone, I would have been like, "Are you crazy? I can't do that. Like, I need to be with somebody to go see a movie. You don't go see a movie alone. You don't do things like that." It was like I would break, right? And somebody at some point mentioned a book to me, and they said, like it was a book about a place that exists like up north in Quebec, and it's a place where you can go and be, you get a cabin in the woods, in the middle of the woods, right? And there's a few cabins, there's people there, but you're not allowed to talk, right? Nobody, if you cross somebody in the woods, like you don't say nothing, you just keep going, whatever, or uh but that's the whole point, is to go there and spend a week in silence in the woods and in that cabin. And I remember at the time
Because
that
things sound a lot different when it's yourself talking to you and not all these other voices trying to give you opinions or
indeed.
ideas.
But the thing was, at the time that I heard that, I was like, could I literally go and be alone for a week? And I didn't think so. I would panic at the idea. I would be like, oh my God, no, I couldn't be alone for that. Like, what the hell, right? Because that's before I went to rehab. It's before I did like most of my work on me. Like, I just didn't. No, it was after I went to rehab, but it was at the beginning. And so I was like, wow, okay, I don't think I could do this. Now, I mean, I spend weeks alone at home sometimes, and I'm just like, okay, this is fine. I love it. I go walk in the woods for days at a time. Like, I don't, you know what I mean? It doesn't bother me, but it was, yeah. it was a very tough one for me to reach at some point. Uh, it was a challenge to reach that point. I had to come to peace with myself, and I was really far from that when I first like. It took me a lot to get at peace with myself. I think I am now. I'm pretty confident. I've reached a certain amount of that. So, anyways, that was our. This is the format we wanted to try tonight, you guys, and let us know if you enjoyed it. Let us know if you think we should do more reaction videos to other people or to other videos, topics you'd like to see, and so on and so forth. And again, please interact with us on our page, in our group. You can visit Jill at Inspired Spirit as well. And you can visit me on YouTube or Facebook at Boundless Mind as well. And so, on this, because we won't see you until then, Happy New Year, and
Be
hopefully
safe.
we'll see you guys
Make
after.
good choices. That's what I tell my kids when they leave. Make good choices.
Now's a good time too to reflect on how your year was and what things you've
What you can do
accomplished and
better.
what you need to let go, and then what you need to welcome into your life. Now, everybody always talks about like the New Year's resolution, right? And everybody's like, oh, I'm gonna go to the gym more. I'm gonna, but truly, like if you sit, make it an exercise. Sit for more than 5 minutes, going like, oh, okay, I'm gonna work out more. Just go, okay, what has happened this year, and where did that leave me? What has improved my life? What has made it worse? What do I need to let go? What do I need more of? And if you answer those questions and you do it even in writing, maybe, though, that will actually
I think
set
it's
your new
great to
year.
do it in writing, and I think journaling is great. But like, if
Journaling is
if you're
amazing.
not gonna journal, and then you don't have to donate a day, an hour, or even 10 minutes every day, or every week to journal. You can just get yourself a book or a few pages. Write what you wish for to come for this new year, and then throughout the year, if you have moments where you feel compelled to go and write in it, go write in it. If you don't, then don't.
Hmm.
And then next year at this time, look back in it and see what you first of all what you asked for the new year, and reflect on where you are.
It may have become even totally irrelevant. It might, by that point, it may, you might read it and go, what the hell was I
But through the
thinking my
years,
year was going to be?
it's gonna be very
But it's fine.
interesting information. As someone that likes to do, like, to know about my ancestors and
Hmm.
things like that, if you have that written down in a book, would be great information for your great 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 grandkids to come, years from now, to look back on the thoughts that you were having and compare it to the thoughts that they're having in their generation.
Yeah, if they're still able to think back at that point.
I think
I
I
don't
think
know.
I'm gonna do that.
But I mean, yeah, you want, leave a trace, but it's mostly for yourself, though. That's the thing. Journaling is anything, even if you record and then erase it, whatever you do, but just anything that gets it out of your head and onto
Hmm.
a paper, a video, a recording, anything that you can look at. And it doesn't matter. You never have to look at it again. Just the fact that you did that is what does the difference. So if you've never tried journaling or writing anything, just try it. And something else, if you never journal, if you go through a super hard time at some point and you're going like, oh my God, this is crazy, I don't know what to do, da 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 da, sit down and write on a page everything that's going on in your head. Like, go, oh my God, I don't know if I'm going to be able to feed my kids this week. I don't know if I'm going to be able to pay my bill. I don't know, my wife just told me that I'm an asshole. This just happened, that just happened. And put it all on paper. And all of a sudden, after you do that, you kind of go, okay, wait a minute. Okay, good. Okay, all this is still happening, but I think now I'm able to deal with it. For some reason, it seems to magically just give you that perspective now. And that's important. Like, I mean, that's an easy tool, really. All you're asking, all that's required is writing what you're going through on a piece of paper that day. But the result is incredible. Like, it does something amazing. So, anyways, you guys, that's I think that's what we have for this week, isn't it?
Yep.
Awesome. Well, thanks a lot for coming by. We always appreciate it. You guys are you're the reason we do this. Bring friends, share if you can, like anything that will let the algorithm know that you care and you like us, and you'd like other people to like us. We'd like other people to like us, but we're happy that you like us.
And if you have a topic you'd like us to discuss, you can comment in the comments. We always check the comments, or you can email us or visit our website.
And feel free to engage at any
www.
time.
Dot, there you go.
There you go. Yeah,
Live with Jill and Frank. Info. All right, I'm gonna do the ending, Frank, because I'm gonna do the ending video.
sounds good.
So thanks everyone. Have a good night.
Love to all.
See you next year.